Hello everyone, how are you? Welcome back to English class. How was your exams? How was your Christmas vacation? Hope you all are good, alright. Now all of you take your English textbook and align hand. So today onwards we're gonna start our SEM 2. Here, English 1.1, that means we are starting first lesson in SEM 2. Okay, so are you ready? We're gonna start a new lesson titled as I want something in a cage. I want something in a cage, and here you can see a picture of a cage and here you can see a bird in this. Okay, so shall we start? Get ready. This is an interesting story that talks about a man and a person who owns a pet shop named as Mr. Purcell. Okay, now all of you take page number 36 in your textbook. Okay, lesson 6 in your textbook, it's lesson 6. I want something in a cage. Mr. Purcell did not believe in ghosts. Nevertheless, the man who bought the 2 dogs and his strange act immediately thereafter left him with a distinct sense of uncanny, as though behind his departed customer there had lingered the musty smell of an abandoned haunted house. Note down the word abandoned. Abandoned means to leave a place, and haunted means suffering. So Mr. Purcell did not believe in ghosts. He don't believe that there is ghost. But one day there comes a stranger, that means a customer in his shop. Then something happened there. Let's look what happened. Mr. Purcell was a small fuzzy man, red cheeks and a tight melon stomach. So fuzzy, F-U-S-S-Y, fuzzy. Fuzzy man means a normal man, and with like normal looking man who with a what cheeks, red color cheeks, and he also had a melon stomach. That means he had a big stomach. Large glasses magnified his eyes so as to give him the appearance of a wise and a genial owl. Genial means friendly, and he also had a long specs, rounded specs in his face. And that seems like, his look seems like a friendly owl. He looks like a wise man because he had a glass on his face, and he looks like a wise man with a friendly look. And he owned a pet shop. He sold cats and dogs and monkeys. He dealt in fish food and birds seed, prescribed remedies for ailing canaries, and displayed on his shelves long rows of ornate and gilded cages. He considered himself something of a professional man. So this Mr. Purcell, he considered himself as a professional man, and he owns a pet shop. He had a pet shop, and there are so many birds, animals, like monkey, so many birds are there in his pet shop. Not only birds or animals, but also there was also golden color of cages. That here you can see the word gilded cages. Gilded means golden colored cages, and there is many shelves in his shop, and that also contain food for animals and birds. Many fish food, animals food, everything was there in that shop. And we know some animals looks very much tired, and instead of medicine they have that ornate and like ailing canaries. Ailing canaries means the food of birds and animals, and by eating that food they will become much more stronger. So that kind of food is also there in his Mr. Purcell's shop. In his shelf we can see all that food. Okay. Then a constant stir of movement pervaded his shop. Whispered titters, sly rustling, squeals, cheeps, and sudden squeaks. So this paragraph, third paragraph, tells us about the sound that produced by the birds and animals in that shop. We know the chirping sound of birds or squeaking sound of birds, right? It's very sweet. So that shop contains the squeaking sound, chirping sound, or sound that produced by the animals. We can hear all these sounds from his shop. And stir means movement. A great movement happened in his shop. And whispered twitters, that means the whispering sound of the twitters. Sly rustling, that means sound of leaves. We can also hear the sound of leaves. And squeaks, that means high pitched noise of these birds. Then cheeps, chirping sound of big sound of these birds. And sudden squeaks, squeaking sound of birds. Small feet scampered in frantic circles. Then we can see like many birds are in cage and they are making noises and these cages are moving. Okay. Frightened, bewildered, blindly seeking. Bewildered means confused. And by hearing all these noises, and we can see that Mr. Purcell was little confused. Why all these are making such kind of noise? Across the shelves pulsed this endless flicker of life. So we can see in this shelf many birds were shining. Okay. Then, but the customers who came in said, aren't they cute? Look at the little cage, they are sweet. And Mr. Purcell himself would smile and briskly rub his hands and emphatically shake his hand. Then many customers used to visit his shop, and they, by seeing all these birds and by seeing the chirping, squeaking sound of these birds, they told Mr. Purcell that, oh, aren't they sweet? They seems to be very sweet and these sound are very sweet to hear. But I think Mr. Purcell don't like that sound because all the time, most of the time he was in that shop and all the time he was hearing the chirping, squeaking sound of these birds. I think he was irritated by hearing this voice. And sometimes he do what he will do? Yes, sometimes he would smile and briskly rub his hands. Briskly means energetically. He used to rub his hands like this. Energetically, he used to rub his hands like this and emphatically shake his hand. Emphatically means forcefully he used to shake his hand with the customers who are visiting his shop. And each morning when the routine of opening his shop was completed, it was the proprietor's custom to perch on a high stool behind the counter, unfold his morning paper and digest the day's news. So Mr. Purcell used to follow a kind of routine daily. That means he at the morning he reached the shop and he opens the shop and he had a stool. He put that stool near his counter and he sit there. And he started reading his newspaper. He digests all the news. And that was his morning routine. And unfold his morning paper and digest all the news. As he read, he would smirk, frown, reflective, purse his lips, knowingly lift his eyebrows, nod in grave agreement. So, smirk. Smirk means smile irritatingly and frown, concentration. So, he used to read the newspaper in much concentration, and whenever he see any kind of like funny news, he started laughing very irritatingly. Then he sometimes he reflect perceive his lips. That means we can see his facial expressions while reading the newspaper. He used to raise his eyebrows like this by seeing some fantastic news. And he read everything, even advice to love lawn and the detailed columns of advertisements. So he never leave any columns. He used to read the advertisements. He used to read all the columns, editorials. He read all the news. He digests all that newspaper. Then it was a rough day. Strong wind blew against the high plate glass windows. Smoke filmed the wintry city and the air was grew with a thick frost. Having completed his usual task, Mr. Purcell again mounted the high stool and unfolded his morning paper. Then that was a fine morning and he was about to read the newspaper and he was sitting in that stool near the counter and something happened there. Then a strong cold wind blew there. Then air was grey with a thick frost. Having completed his usual task, Mr. Purcell again mounted the high stool and unfolded his morning paper. So he mostly done his morning task, morning routines, and he was folding the newspaper. After reading the newspaper, he was folding the newspaper. Then he adjusted his glasses and glanced at the day's headlines. Sleeping and squeaking and mewing vibrated all around him. Yet Mr. Purcell heard it no more than he would have heard the monotonous ticking of familiar clock. Then Yes, he heard the sound of the birds animals who was making lot of noise that day, but he never mind them. He was doing his own morning routines, that he was reading the newspaper and he was folding that. Then he can hear the tickling sound of the clock from that shop. There was a bell over the door that jingled whenever a customer entered. This morning, however, for the first time, Mr. Puzzle could recall it failing to ring. Simply he glanced up and there was the stranger standing just inside the door as if he had materialized out of thin air. Then there was a doorbell outside his shop. Then whenever a customer come to his shop, the doorbell started ringing, started making noise. Then at that time, while he was folding the newspaper, here comes someone, some stranger. That was a customer. Then he was really amazed. Hey, what about that doorbell? Doesn't ring. Then here comes a strange customer to his shop. And standing just inside the door as if he had materialized out of his thin air. Then he was little amazed because he had never seen that stranger. The storekeeper sit off his stool. From the first instant he knew instinctively, unreasonably, that the man hated him, but out of habit he rubbed his hands and briskly together smiled and nodded. Good morning, he beamed. What can I do for you? Then, by seeing that stranger, the Mr. Puzzle asked him, Hey, how are you? What can I do for you? What do you want? He asked him. Then here the first part ends. Okay, so hope this is clear for you. Let's continue the next portion in the next Monday. That means next class. Thank you.